Okay, FightHype.com is here with the lovely Claudia Trejos.
Thank you.
Claudia done so much great work, Golpe a Golpe on ESPN Deportes, and so much great work there, and now doing great work on DAZN. So first off, congrats, Claudia, on working for DAZN. So.
Thank you.
But I got to pick your brain, because I know you know boxing and love boxing. I don't know if you can make a pick because you're covering the fight, but start with Canelo was quoted as earlier this week as saying Mexican fighters struggle with fighters that can move and punch on the move. Do you agree with that? And if that's how Jacobs is going to fight, what's Canelo got to do to beat this guy?
Oh, that's $1 million question. Does it make it complicated for Mexican fighters? That's a very general statement.
Only using it because it's his quote.
Yes, and I'm going to just bring it back to it makes him very, very uncomfortable. And I'm just going to bring one name, Erislandy Lara. That was the first evidence that Canelo had a hard time with fighters that were mobile, that could use laterals. And of course, Daniel Jacobs has that, plus the fact that he can effectively switch guard, which in fact will make that fight very uncomfortable. But the truth of the matter is, when we look at numbers in terms of jab, which would be a key factor for Daniel Jacobs because of his reach and because of his height, in order to maintain distance, we've seen that Canelo, despite being shorter and perhaps shorter reach, he is more effective with the jab. He's more accurate with the jab. In case of Daniel Jacobs, we know that he can use laterals, and he made Gennady Golovkin's life miserable, precisely using that, cutting corners beautifully. But consistency is key. Can he actually do that 12 rounds against a pressure type fighter like Canelo? That's the $1 million questions. Now also, I've noticed, in my very humble opinion, that Daniel Jacobs has great spirits, but throughout the fight you can see moments where he just loses focus. And I saw that against Luis Arias, I saw that against Derevyanchenko, and as a matter of fact, we saw that against Gennady Golovkin, perhaps one of his best outings. So my question would be, can he be consistent in that aggression, maintaining the distance, using his jab and using his laterals? And will he be able to use the southpaw stance that is so difficult for Canelo to handle? And I think that is going to be the key in this fight. It's a very difficult fight to pick. It will be a very difficult fight to score.
Win or lose, do you think Canelo impresses us in this fight? Because, like you said, he's a come-forward guy, pressure guy. But again, he's even though he beat Lara, it still wasn't impressive. He
scored by few, yes.
Yeah, right. But even though he got the decision, and you know, you could debate that but he won, but didn't look good. Do you think that could be the case against Jacobs, where whether he wins or loses a close fight, fans are saying, you know, not left impressed with his performance? Or
so you're one of the things in the Lara fight was the fact that he was not impressive, and we could also say in the first against Gennady Golovkin he was not impressive either. Now in the second one we saw huge adjustments that were very effective against Gennady Golovkin, a well-seasoned 160. I think Canelo has to win in an impressive manner, only because his acumen requires it. The fact that he is the star, and I asked him about the pressure precisely because he is the new face of boxing. How much pressure does he take with him, representing that higher echelon of Mexican fighters? And he will be one of the first ones to ever unify at 160. Actually, he would be the first one. I think it's part of his legacy to take this win in a decisive manner. Now, the same thing can be said for Daniel Jacobs, because is the one king at middleweight that has not been crowned accordingly. We can also say that the reason why he became a champ when the IBF was because basically Canelo just walked away from that belt.
Right.
So let's be honest here.
Right.
Does he need to prove that he indeed belongs in that higher echelon of middleweights? This is the fight that's going to decide that.
And Claudia, I'm going to use you as our sample for people from Mexico. When it comes to how Mexico perceives Canelo, is he yet beloved and respected in the level of Barrera, Morales, Marquez, Chavez, Sanchez, you know, those guys?
That's a tough question. Is he beloved? I think... And
respected at that level yet as a fighter? Even if they don't love him, do they see him as, yeah, he's there with Barrera, Morales, Marquez, or not quite?
That's a tough question because, see, those fighters were completely different personalities. They were more of the people, for the people, by the people. As a matter of fact, we can make a absolute difference between a Julio Cesar Chavez and a Juan Manuel Marquez. We can actually say Juan Manuel Marquez is very different from Marco or Eric El Terrible Morales. I don't think it had anything to do with boxing skills. I think it had more to do with charisma. And Julio will be always the one guy that everybody wants to emulate. But to have that personality and that charisma and to be able to just bring in the following, that's a difficult challenge. And in Canelo's case, we're talking about a fighter that's more introspective, more into himself, more family-oriented. He obviously doesn't have that party-go-lucky type guy personality. So that obviously doesn't bring the same type of crowd. But I am now going to turn this question around. Will the Mexican crowd always support their Mexican fighters? Absolutely.
Some people thought they didn't for the Triple G. There were some people saying, oh, actually, the Mexican fan is aligning with Golovkin.
Well, because now we're talking about a fighter that was actually supported by Julio Cesar Chavez.
Right.
In many instances, we compared Gennady Golovkin's style to Julio Cesar Chavez due to the left hook that was so accurate and so effective. And let's add 23 knockouts back-to-back. That was pretty much following Julio Cesar Chavez's line.
Cuts the rig off really good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so not necessarily because he's Gennady Golovkin. It was more because he was emulated and supported by the greatest Mexican fighter that most people can recognize. Now, is it fair? Maybe not. But I'm going to tell you, the Mexican population will support Canelo 100%.
Even if they don't fully like him.
You know what? At this point, is it really relevant?
No,
I mean, the truth is, right now, he's in that very elite club. I mean, he's got 3 championships in 3 different divisions. We can split that apart. We can, break it down. But the truth is, 154, 160, 168, how many Mexicans can say that? Mm-hmm. Not many. And will he try to make history at 160? Probably. So they will support that more than just being Santos Saul Alvarez, So we'll see.
Does this fight end in a knockout, Claudia? Or are we going to the cards?
That's a very good question. This is the one fight that is, we're going to have to wait to that last bell.
Yeah.
It's a tough call. Daniel was very decisive. He says that he will look for that knockout.
That can get him in trouble, though, can't it?
Yeah, if he doesn't maintain his distance, let me tell you, let's not put aside Canelo's power. And I'm going to put in evidence Daniel's jaw. His chin, he went down a couple times. He went down against Derevyanchenko. He went down against Golovkin. Mora. That was a knockout. So it's a toss-up.
It's odd with Jacobs' chin because he may go down against lesser punches, but then he stands up to Golovkin for 11 out of 12. I mean, he got dropped, but the other...
Which is my question. Which Daniel are we going to see?
Right.
And how focused will he be? And while I was talking to a couple of people that are close to the corner, to the camp, they were saying Daniel will rise to the level of his opponent. So if he really doesn't see this as a great challenge, he'll just be a little bit, playful. Let's hope and pray he has a lot of respect for Canelo, because if he decides to just be a little playful and allow Canelo to walk into his space, he will take advantage and capitalize in that pocket.
And Claudia, lastly, any parting thoughts on this fight? And I don't know if we actually did get a pick. I don't know if you can give a pick.
I can't pick. Okay, no, and I'm not gonna.
Okay.
This is the one that I'm gonna owe you. It's a toss-up. I insist. This could go for either. And you know what? I almost hate to hype this fight like this because we've seen it so many times that we expect this huge explosive fight to come around, and then all of a sudden we find 2 fighters that have so much respect for each other that it becomes a dud. So I'm even afraid that it might be like that.
Yeah, because that describes exactly their relationship in the build-up to this fight.
Exactly.
Super respectful to each other.
So we'll see.
But hopefully that's just for outside of the ring, and they're the kind of guys, right, that once they're in the ring, different story. But we'll have to see.
You never know. You never know.
Because sometimes those guys talk all this shit before the fight, and then
all the time.
and then they don't fight when they get in there.
We saw that. Adrian Broner, for God's sakes. Let's not even go there. Yes, I went there. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Claudia.
Thank you.
And great to see you doing awesome work on DAZN.
Thank you.
Thank you.